Final seconds here of this 2018 NBA season. There's the buzzer. There's a new dynasty in the NBA. The Golden State Warriors champions once again, back-to-back titles.
The Warriors back-to-back champions. Welcome into the show. Views from the Sideline, June 14th, 2018. I told you last week on the show, it was a sweep. And there we are. It's a sweep.
You actually told us 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that too.
I was hoping it was a sweep. Got exactly what I wanted.
I mean, we picked 4-1.
Yeah, you guys picked 5.
Yeah, I picked 5, but I was hoping it was a sweep.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wanted this series to be over with right away.
Still surprised LeBron pulled one out. Still very surprised.
That he didn't pull one out? Yeah.
He was close.
Well, he gave up, so.
He did give up.
Wasn't
That's
much he could
talk
do.
about. But on today's show, I mean, we're going to break down Game 3 and 4 of the finals. Kind of go into what this does impacting the Warriors, impacting LeBron, impacting Cleveland. Then we're going to kind of go into what's the next step for LeBron. Go into the Pistons actually made a hire this past week, so we'll get into that.
Wow.
Yeah, Joey's been under a rock. He doesn't know what's going on, so we're just filling him in as we go. But after that, we're gonna talk some other coaching hires and some draft buzz leading into next week. I think we have a special Views from the Sideline episode going on next week, the first annual NBA mock draft special for Views from the Sideline. We are going to break down all 30 picks of the first round, kind of give our prediction, and then we'll each collectively have our own prediction for the Pistons at number 42 since they're not involved in the first round of the NBA draft. So let's just jump right into this, Joe and Malik. First of all, how are you guys doing today? I'm just kind of skipping over you guys. What's up, Joe?
You know, I'm doing good. I'm excited that we're back. And then next week is draft. I'm ready for the offseason more than, like I said, I'm so excited this series went 4 games. And we can just go to the offseason now, so we're good.
Malik, what's going on?
I'm also happy to be back. Like Joe said, I'm ready for the offseason. The finals are over. I'm ready for the summer league. I'm ready for the draft. I'm not too excited to hear how excited you are about Luka Doncic, but we'll get there next week.
Yeah, Luke is next week. But yeah, we'll get into that all next week. We'll touch on some draft stuff at the end of the show today, but mostly that'll be for next week's show. So sweep, guys. 4-0, something we all expected, except you guys had 1 for LeBron. Game 3 was a tight game. Cavs just kind of lost at the end. It was kind of that deja vu Game 3. KD hitting a deep contested 3 to kind of put the series and that game away. What was your take from that kind of 108-102 Warriors win?
They did it without Steph Curry in that game.
And Klay Thompson.
He did not.
It was KD.
That was awful by Steph, but KD stepped up big time, showed that there was a reason he was the Finals MVP last year. That's why I picked him to be the Finals MVP again, which I was correct. And I think Steph Curry would have gotten it if not for that Game 3, because although Kevin Durant had a little bit of a rough Game 1, overall his consistency was better than Steph. So I think he was a little bit more deserving, but Steph was very, very close this year.
I kind
of felt bad for him because I thought he was going to get it until that Game 3.
Yeah, once that Game 3, I think that was the deciding factor. That was kind of that swing game for the MVP voting. But KD kind of showed me something. He's a killer. He's not LeBron status, but he is that tier right underneath. No one else is with LeBron.
You said that LeBron is a killer?
No, KD is.
I know, but you're comparing him to LeBron.
No, I'm just
LeBron's the best player on the planet.
I'm just saying LeBron's the best player in the world.
That's why I understand.
KD has that killer mentality.
Okay. I was just trying to decipher if you were trying to insinuate that also LeBron is a killer.
I mean,
because I disagree. But I think I understand what you're saying.
He's a killer in certain instances. I'd say it's not. He'll try to kill you from different areas than just scoring the basketball.
Not on defense though.
He takes some plays off. This series was not good for it. I think we saw after Game 3, the Cavs put up a good fight. They did. George Hill played well. J.R. Smith played well. Bounced back. Kind of got some bad bounce. KD single-handedly won that game for the Warriors. LeBron didn't look the same. He wasn't pulling from three. Ever since that game one, we kind of thought there was something up. Was it just me, or did you guys think LeBron was kind of just being a little passive more than he should have been?
He definitely kind of became a shell of his older self.
Especially coming from
people gave him a lot of flack for going away in big moments.
Especially from what he came from in game one, being so dominant. From me being like, this dude might be the best in the game ever, to kind of just being, like you said, a shell of himself. Was there anything in particular that stood out to you other than him being passive for the reason why the Cavs kind of couldn't get over the hump of the Warriors and kind of take one? Either you, Malik, or Joe?
Well, in my opinion, the first thing is, to me, LeBron has never been the most mentally tough guy. He's gotten a lot better over the years. We've seen from the Dallas series in 2011 how mentally weak LeBron
7 years ago, dude,
could be. That's why he's grown. He's gotten a lot better over the years. But after game one, I think it started to come back a little. 50-point game, you still end up losing in overtime. I think his spirit was broken after that.
I don't think that's LeBron's fault that they lost that game in overtime.
I mean, it's not his fault, but that's the thing. He put everything into that game, and they should have won.
And they crushed his
But
spirit.
the fact that they crushed his spirit. Every single press conference after games, he's telling people that he's tired every time. I think he was mentally and physically just drained. And although he still put in a lot of effort the rest of the games, it didn't match. It wasn't anything close to what he put in game one.
Yeah, and definitely. And I think he make some great points there. Time and time again, when he gets to that podium, regardless if it's at the end of the first round series against Indiana, at the end of the conference finals, he constantly kind of reiterated to the media, I'm tired, I'm drained, I'm not worrying about them until tomorrow, And I think that we kind of brush that over as media and as people just watching. But I think LeBron was being genuinely honest to the fact that he, after 8 straight years going to the NBA Finals, and he played all 82 this year as well, maybe it kind of finally caught up with him to an extent.
Although LeBron is above everybody in terms of just...
He's supernatural.
Exactly. Bo Jackson almost type DNA athlete-wise.
That's a great comparison.
Like you just said, 8 straight years of finals. It's going to get to you at some point. And he made it clear to the media that it's finally getting to him.
And, and I mean, some could say that's kind of a weak point in LeBron's ego. Like, he wants people to make sure he knows he's tired. That's why he's losing the series, not because... Just remember, he's a great player, but he's tired, so that's why. I could see that stance as that's LeBron portraying himself as more than he is this postseason. But that's kind of a debate for another day.
I think it goes back to the Cavs. Like we talked last time, that the Cavs just never committed to playing defense. And I talked to you guys. We kind of had a little bit of back and forth about the screens on whether they should be switching all the time or they shouldn't be. And I felt that they needed to try to not have to switch if they didn't need to. And then I remember, I think it was after, like almost right after the podcast, I ended up texting Chris because I had watched, I can't remember if it was a specific show or not, but I know Jalen Rose was talking about it. I can't remember if it was The Jump or Get Up, but Jalen Rose, and I think
it's probably Get Up.
Yeah, probably.
I don't remember if it was or not. He might have been on The Jump, though. But either way, they were talking about how they felt the same way, that the Cavs weren't trying to get over screens as much. They weren't committing to, they were just relying on switching a little too much. Oh, it was Gary Payton. It was on Get Up. Gary Payton showed up, and he talked about committing to defense, and that's like what the Cavs needed to do, because it's so hard to outshoot the Warriors, especially the way the Cavs were shooting. And they just didn't really play defense at all. And that's, again, where I think LeBron really lacks, is he doesn't always get down in a stance and commit to playing defense and stopping these guys night in and night out. I know you can't do it every night because he's such an integral part of that team. He's got so many other things that he's got going on. But I think he needs to be the leader in saying, hey, we need to maybe step up on our defense. We need to be a little bit tighter on switches. Or if we think we can commit to a player, that to stay with him. And they just didn't do that, and that's why I think that's a big part of why they lost. But also you got to think back to LeBron. He's the reason the Cavs made it to the finals. He put them on his back and willed his team to the finals. But he's also the reason they lost. He's the reason they got swept. You got to remember, he brought in J.R. Smith. He brought in Kyle Korver. He got these guys to come here. He's part of the reason Kyrie Irving left as well.
He's the main reason.
So, part of this is his fault. Obviously, he made a tremendous run to get them there. But then when they fail in the finals, that's got to be on him a little bit. I know, obviously, you're expecting your guys to step up, and I get that. And I totally agree with that. But at the same token, he needs to realize he's the one that brought these guys in. And J.R. Smith has been known to completely make dumb, airheaded mistakes.
Yes.
So he knows that going in. So you can only say so much that, you couldn't have seen this coming.
No, I agree with you 100% on kind of putting some of that blame on LeBron. Completely agree with you. But I will fight you tooth and nail that the Cavs should not have switched on screens. No, to beat this Golden State Warrior team, you just need to be effective on switching. We saw in the Western Conference Finals, Houston did it right. They switched everything properly. They didn't let slip screens derail their defense. They were prepared. These Cavaliers were not prepared. Tyronn Lue did not have them ready. LeBron did not have them ready. It was just more so on the team was not coached and prepared to play that type of defense.
And that
Gary Payton never played against a Golden State Warrior team that could individually shoot 40% from deep on the regular contested threes. Gary Payton doesn't know what that's about.
That also just goes to the Cavs not committing to playing.
No, that's what I'm
defense.
saying. I don't think it's the style of defense that they played that was bad. It was the commitment that was poor.
But I do think that there are times against these 3-point shooting teams that when you try to switch, that just that little bit of space that
you're getting rid of that space when you switch, though.
Not always.
But if you're fighting through a screen, the guy doesn't fight through properly. Steph gets a little bit of a hedge above him. He has more airspace to get a 3-point shot up before the switch. If you're communicating and you have that switch ready, there's very little break time in between.
There's still the screen man that's there, and you can hide right on top of it. So in between where there are two screens, you now don't even you're using the screen right in the middle. So there you have the two guys, the two defenders, and you have the screen guy. If the shooter is trying to use the screener and he already sees that those guys are trying to switch, he can stop right where the screen is and shoot.
But if you're coached properly, like the Houston Rockets were, every time the person that was switching hedged on the switch and was there to abrupt the airspace that either Steph or Clay had or KD had. I'm just saying, don't get me wrong. I'm sure if you don't switch on screens, it can be done well as well. It can be done proper.
Right. I'm saying I think that there's times where you want to mix it in and out. I get what
agree
you're
with
saying.
that because
overall, you do want to switch on a lot of things, but there are maybe specific players
like Steph and
that
Kevin
you can hone in on and make sure that you don't always switch onto that. Because
like
we said, there were times where Steph would have Kevin Love every time, and they would just commit to that, and they'd be okay with that. Like, you should never be okay with that.
Or it was like George Hill and Kevin Durant.
Right. So that's a time where maybe you say, okay, I need to try to get over this screen a little bit better so that I'm not having Steph on Kevin Love. That's more of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that portion. I just think, in general, you just need to have that mentality to switch. But yeah, there's nothing more to break down when it comes to Game 4. It was a blowout. 108-85. That game was over after halftime. What does this sweep mean for both teams? Malik, I'm going to start with you, kind of get your thoughts on it. What does a sweep for the Warriors mean for Golden State?
Well, before that, I want to go into what both of you were just saying on the defensive part. I think with Houston, they were much more aggressive on defense, and they weren't afraid of the Warriors at all.
Right.
There were points where James Harden was just straight up guarding Kevin Durant, and he was stripping him, and he did it like 2 out of 3 possessions, and it startled Kevin Durant and Steph Curry at times because they weren't afraid to just guard them straight up.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. That's the commitment.
Yeah, it was 100% commitment. But could you repeat the question really quick? I got into it.
So, what does this sweep mean for Golden State and for Cleveland in your eyes?
Well, for Golden State, it's huge. I mean, is it 3 championships in 4 years?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it considered 3 straight championships a dynasty, or just if you win 3, it's a dynasty?
I mean, dynasty is pretty loosely used word.
I thought it was usually 3 straight.
I definitely think that it puts them in the talk for
3 out of 4.
dynasty.
I think 3 out of 4. I think puts them in the talk. That kind of leads into my next question. We can actually kind of just jump into it. Do you categorize the Warriors? Do you, Malik, right now categorize the Golden State Warriors from 2015 to 2018 a dynasty?
Because it's always been in my head that if you win 3 straight, you're a dynasty. So I wouldn't consider them a dynasty, but I consider them one of the greatest teams
That,
in
but
NBA
to
history.
add,
So there's not that many dynasties then,
I mean, you
in
have
your eyes.
I mean, if it does go both ways, because that could just be me. If it does go both ways, then yes, they're a dynasty. If they won 3 championships, yes. But this is easily one of the best teams in NBA history. Like this team in we've seen 2 of the best teams in NBA history in this decade in the Miami Heat and the Golden State Warriors back to back, and it's because of this era of super teams, which has led to very impressive play, but the NBA not being as competitive. So
Yep. Now think about this. Malik too and Joey kind of want you to chime in. Yes, the Warriors won 3 out of 4, but that one year they didn't win. They were 73-9, best regular season record in NBA history. In that same season, that playoff run, they were up 3-1 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. They were 1 game away from winning another NBA championship. Would be 4 straight NBA championships. You're going to tell me just because of that 48-minute period of time that they're not a dynasty? Joey?
I think they're a dynasty. I think, they messed up. Every team has their flubs. Every great team. You see the 04 Pistons beat a great Lakers team.
Also think about, too, the Draymond suspension
Yeah.
in that series. People were questioning that, if that's the proper move to do. Was that kind of given
Right.
to Cleveland to make them more competitive?
Yeah. Oh, and you look at teams like Dallas beating Miami. Like, there's great teams will lose games. I mean, it definitely hurt the Warriors for having such a historic season, obviously. But you see all these great teams flub. It's hard to win an NBA championship. No matter how good the team is, it is hard. Unless you're Bill Russell.
And I think you can pencil in another Warriors championship run next year, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely. They'll be set for a while, honestly.
I think
Even if, there's been slight rumblings about Kevin Durant maybe moving on now that he's,
I've heard more Draymond.
solidified himself. And there's also every once in a while talk about Klay Thompson, but he sounds really committed to the team. So even losing Kevin Durant, I mean, they've won it without him. So I don't see why they couldn't do it again. And obviously, if they lose Kevin Durant, they'll be able to find another piece. Who doesn't want to join the Golden State Warriors at this point?
But not another piece is like a Kevin Durant.
No. I mean, you can't recreate Kevin Durant, but you can obviously get something close. And I don't think they need Kevin Durant to win a championship.
I agree with that. I think something that will hamper the Warriors down the road is Draymond Green's going to want that Supermax. He's said it. He's going to want that max contract, that 5 years, $216 or whatever $1 million it is. If I'm the Warriors, I'm not paying him that.
No, I think you let him walk.
And then you're letting walk your emotional leader.
yeah,
That's
He
what
is
that's
the
what I
core
was
of that
about to say.
team.
yeah. I would say that would be
I-
the biggest loss.
That's what I think. Draymond Green leaving in, I think, 28-20 is what it would be, is a realistic possibility and would be a bigger fall to the Warriors than losing a Kevin Durant.
I don't know. I don't
agree
think,
with that.
but
I
I'm not sure if
understand-
they can win without Draymond.
I understand. I think
I just
they
think
can.
he brings the
I th-
intangibles.
I think they can. I understand your point. He's the emotional leader. He's the one that gets up in everybody's face. But as you've seen over the years, Steph and Clay have gotten a little more talkative, a little more
They're
confident
not
in themselves.
Draymond. They're not.
No, they're
Draymond.
not. But they're not afraid of moments. They're starting to like to talk a little bit, which is all fun. Obviously, Draymond goes a step above, but I definitely think that you could win without Draymond. I think he's a good puzzle piece into this team where he fits perfectly. So I think you could figure out a way to go around that.
I think it's more than just the emotion and the talking. When he gets stat lines of like 11, 11, 11 and like 3 blocks, that's something you can't like.
He's a defensive player of
That's
the year
something you
candidate
can't
every
get.
year.
He guards the other team's best forward or center. He can guard 1 through 5.
Yeah.
There aren't many players all in the NBA that can just guard 1 through 5 as seamlessly as Draymond can. That would be a huge loss.
And
for
to
Golden
piggyback
State.
on Malik's point there, Draymond's that guy that I feel like gets Steph, Clay, KD, everybody up to defend. If Draymond's not there, let's say you plug in let's just say you plug in Andre Iguodala into his spot, so you're taking that off the bench. I just don't think you're going to get a team that plays so well defensively. You're not going to get a top defense as well as a top offense. And I think that would play a huge role come playoff time and could affect them going up against a Houston Rocket team that's prepared to beat them. That's just my opinion.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll talk about it in 2020 if it happens. But moving on, does this sweep affect LeBron's legacy, Malik? In your eyes?
I think when it comes to the public opinion, I think it will.
I'm not asking
Because-
about the public opinion, Malik. I'm asking
What
about
is
Malik
his what
Hill's
is his
opinion.
finals record now? 3-6.
6.
3-6.
Is it 9? Yeah, 3-6. You're right. Yeah.
For me, as soon as he went to Cleveland the second time in 2014, I said as long as he wins a championship in Cleveland, he's cemented as number 2 all time in my opinion. He did that.
So it just doesn't affect your opinion on his legacy.
I mean, if he gets back to the finals like 6 straight times and loses all 6, that'll be really like incredible. But at this point right now, this loss doesn't affect it to me. The fact that he helped push that team to the finals, and although he could have done a little bit more, I mean, that's one of the best teams, like I said, of all time. LeBron in that cast couldn't have beat that team.
Yeah,
so
especially with who LeBron had with him.
I don't think it was anything he could have done. So he's still
Doesn't affect
great-
your opinion.
No, he's still the best player on the planet.
Joe?
I disagree. I think it does affect his legacy, and that's in my opinion too. Obviously, he's one of the greatest players of all time. There's no doubt. But as far as legacy goes for his career, I think it's going to be hampered a little bit. He's had
This playoff run is a plus.
the
finals is
run
the
that he
only
made,
minus.
and the finals. Yeah,
Well, people are only going to remember his finals record.
right.
True, which is
And
unfortunate.
a lot of
Yeah.
people will put in that, he's been swept in the finals now and his finals record is terrible, and then they say, well, Michael Jordan never lost in the finals. Michael Jordan's been swept in earlier rounds.
And Michael Jordan has had a way better cast than LeBron.
And-
He's never had a team as bad. I'm just going to say blatantly as bad as LeBron had this year.
I disagree.
You
Little
think
bit.
Michael had
Michael
Worse
had
I
teams?
also
Michael
disagree.
had some bad teams.
Besides Scottie Pippen, come on, Will Purdue.
Yeah, Scottie
John
Pippen was
Paxson.
a stud. You can't compare Kevin Love to Scottie Pippen. You just stop
I
it.
think Scottie
I'm not
Pippen.
comparing
Stop
them.
it.
Scottie Pippen is overrated. Yeah.
I can
Okay, but
I can-
anyway.
I can somewhat agree with him.
But anyway.
Scottie Pippen is a Hall of Fame player, but
Is Kevin Love a Hall of Fame player?
But anyway,
Thank you.
I think that his legacy is still hampered by this. And it goes back to, and I loved seeing it, but when the Mavericks beat them when they first made the Big Three. And I was thinking that, they wouldn't mesh well together right when they started that chemistry with LeBron and Wade and Bosh. So I thought they would have gotten out earlier in the playoffs, but they made it all the way to the finals. So then at that point, when you're against the Mavericks, you're expected to win, and they didn't. So that was a pretty bad loss. I love it because I'm a big Dirk fan. But he in his losses, in the 6 losses, besides maybe what was it last year when he averaged the triple double, that's when he's tended to fade away, is when he's had these losses, and it starts to creep up on him, and he starts to give up. And I also always say that with the Heat, Ray Allen won him a championship, and Chris Bosh won him a championship. I think those 2 guys stepped up when they needed to, and LeBron didn't. Obviously, again, I don't want to act like I'm taking things away from LeBron because obviously he got them there.
And he also finished that series too. But
Yeah.
if you don't have Bosh getting that offensive rebound,
Right.
Ray Allen somehow miraculously stepping back behind the 3. I still don't understand how he gathered his feet, didn't look down once, got behind the line, didn't step out of bounds, nothing but the bounce.
if you're a shooter like that, you know exactly where
Yeah.
to be on the court. And
I still didn't like the
you know
defense. I didn't like the defense. Out of that whole situation was awkward. So,
Yep, fair point.
but I think his legacy is a little bit hampered.
And I think that kind of brings me into my next question. After Game 4, after they get swept, they go to the podium, talk to the media, yada, yada, yada. Something very interesting happened. LeBron comes to the podium wearing an air cast on his right hand. story comes out that he punched a blackboard or a whiteboard, whatever it was, after the Game 1 defeat. And that kind of connected a lot of dots for me because after Game 1, we didn't really see a very aggressive LeBron. When he would go to the rim, he would, for most part, try to lay it up. Game 2, Game 3 he was a little bit more aggressive, but Game 4 was the same way. Is LeBron wearing that air cast to the podium a sign of weakness?
I don't know. That's a tough question, actually. I don't think it's a sign of weakness. I think he did want to have a little bit of transparency. But it definitely came off a little bit odd because if he did it in Game 1, his percentages were still good
He
throughout
didn't
the
shoot the
series.
three ball anymore, though. He stopped shooting 3 balls after Game 1.
Well, he shot a few, but all of his percentages were good
except for 3.
from anywhere.
No, even his 3-point percentage was poor.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty sure it was sub 30% after Game 1. So Game 2 through Game 4.
I think it is a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Now that I'm
Why is
thinking
that?
about it, he wore that to show everybody, to tell everybody, look at why I didn't win.
Now let me play devil's
There's a reason why he wore it to the press conference.
Let me play devil's advocate for you there, Malik. He says, or his camp has stated the reason why he brought it out was because he didn't want the Warriors to get a competitive advantage and aim for his right hand in like Game 2, Game 3, and Game 4. Do you buy that?
I mean, I kind of buy it, but
And does that
honestly,
change your opinion on
Well,
it?
Malik is just saying
You-
that
you coulda
because he revealed it, that's a sign of weakness.
you
Just saying
waited
that-
he could have waited till after that press conference. He could have answered the
Could have
questions.
came out somewhere.
He could have answered
Yeah.
that questions, gone back to the locker room, and then put it on and left.
Yeah.
He intentionally put it on there
Very good
so
point.
that everybody could
Yeah.
see his hand, so they could be like, "Oh, there is a reason why LeBron hasn't been as great as he was in Game 1." And I think that's one of the biggest reasons is because LeBron cares about his legacy almost just as much as winning in the NBA.
I agree with you.
LeBron
completely.
wants people to think that if he lost, there were reasons why he lost, and it wasn't his fault.
Or there's reasons why he played so poorly.
Yeah, he wants to be looked at as that all-time great. So
and
Yeah,
that-
I agree with
yeah.
that.
And that goes back to just, like his personality. And that's why a lot of people don't put him as number one, is because you see guys like Kobe shooting the free throws with a torn Achilles.
That was tough.
You see Michael Jordan in the flu game.
Hangover game.
Yeah, I'm not too into the flu game anymore these days. When you're younger,
Yeah, it's a
you're
big
all
story.
like, wow, this guy just played with the flu. But I don't buy it as much anymore. But you see guys like that, Klay Thompson even, he had a big injury, or a pretty big injury, that I'm sure was affecting him pretty hard.
Grade 2 ankle sprain. That's
Right.
usually a couple weeks.
For, like we said, the guy that's always cutting and moving around, like that had to be tough too. So for LeBron to do it was a little bit shady. I mean, I don't necessarily
I can't get mad at him.
right.
for it,
Yeah, I don't
honestly.
necessarily blame him for it, but
See, I think that, sorry to cut you off, but I think not the finals loss, but that instance where he comes out with an air cast affects his legacy more to me than his finals loss, showing that bit of weakness that usually, like you said, all-time greats don't show that bit of weakness, Yeah.
It
So-
looks like an excuse at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. And
Right.
if you're going to be an all-time greats don't use excuses. Yeah. So, moving on. I mean, the finals are over, man. We're in summer ball.
thank goodness.
Time to move on.
Time to move on and move on to the biggest question heading into free agency. Was this LeBron's last season in Cleveland? Malik?
Yes. And it's unfortunate because I want him to end his career in Cleveland. It's still possible that he could end up coming back for like something Paul Pierce did, which is I really don't like that. I wish you could play with the team your last season.
Yeah.
But he has to leave Cleveland if he wants to win championships for the rest of his career, because getting new teammates every 6 months and just rotating in Cleveland, that's not going to get it done anymore. We see that him getting rid of teammates and getting new teammates and trying to make it work every year, it doesn't work like that.
Also,
You have to have a set system with players that you trust at all times, and it has to be something that just works and goes smoothly. Besides that one championship they won, it hasn't been very smooth in Cleveland. Because LeBron is so great, of course they're going to make it to the finals all the time. But he wants something. He should have something consistent. And
Yeah.
that won't be Cleveland.
And I also think a huge role in this decision is how bad the relationship is between him and ownership.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing.
I was gonna bring that.
I
up.
think if now, let's just say Dan Gilbert doesn't own the Cavs. Let's say Tom Gorse does. I honestly think Cleveland has a way better chance to retain LeBron James. I think that
Probably.
relationship is just deteriorated so much. We've even seen Dan Gilbert come out this last week saying, "Oh, I could build a championship team without LeBron."
Right.
Why are you saying this now?
Yeah.
Why?
He said Cleveland would win before Miami did, so don't trust. Yeah,
I know,
don't
but
trust
see,
anything
that's the
Dan
type of guy that Dan
It's
Gilbert is.
Ignorance. Just
It's
complete
ignorance,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the key word. LeBron doesn't want to be someone so ignorant, and that relationship's just gone. And that's why I don't think there's a way I can see LeBron going back to Cleveland. Joe?
Yeah, I don't see it either. Especially like you said, ownership. They just don't have a relationship, and they've been very open about they're keeping this 8th pick that they have. So they're obviously not going to try to make any moves for LeBron at this point.
Well, they'll have to draft a player at 8, and then let's say somehow LeBron commits to Cleveland afterwards. They could trade the pick.
Yeah, but they've pretty much said that they don't want to give up anything, and they want to
Yeah.
try to, almost move on already, and use younger talent and build around that. So I don't know. I can't see him staying.
And the funny thing is, too, about what you brought up, how they're talking about how they want to go younger and everything like that. All these statements are coming from ownership, not your general manager, not your president of basketball operations. Ownership,
Right.
who didn't play the game, knows nothing about it. I mean, he knows some from watching it, but it doesn't add up for me.
I mean, are Dan Gilbert and Tom Gores like going on vacations together and stuff? Are they hanging out?
I know they actually have a decent working relationship.
Yeah,
because
it doesn't surprise me.
I know they try to bring an MLS team to Detroit, so
But,
that didn't work out.
Another big indication too is that LeBron always talks about his family, and he at this point in his career he wants to put his family first. And big news, Bronny is going
I was going
to
to bring that up.
Sierra Canyon
According to Gary Payton.
in Los Angeles.
Now, the school declines that statement, but I tend to believe what Gary has to say, because I think he said he would be playing with like Scottie Pippen's kid, and
Yeah.
it just seemed very like, oh yeah, this is happening.
Yeah.
And Gary Payton doesn't come off as that type of guy that's going to just start rumors
Yeah.
on TV. When it comes to this decision, this is the way I look at it. His first decision was about ultimately winning. His second decision was about his legacy, going back to Cleveland, winning one for the city. His third decision is going to be about lifestyle, how his family's going to be, how his family's going to be taken care of, situation Bronny's going to be in to succeed at the next level. That's why ultimately he's going to the Los Angeles Lakers. You heard it here first.
You actually committed to that?
Committed.
I mean,
He's
I
gonna be a Laker.
think that's the highest possibility right now. I also think that there could be curveballs. There's obviously a lot of other players that are out there that play into this big old puzzle. Obviously, there's all the Kawhi Leonard talk. There's crazy things going on with that. You got Paul George, DeMarcus Cousins, Carmelo, DeAndre Jordan is still out there again.
It's going to be a crazy NBA
So,
offseason.
technically CP3 and Clint Capella. So I think it's going to be crazy, and LeBron might be a little bit patient and wait to see what other people do. Or it's going to be the opposite, and LeBron's going to be the first one, and then everything's going to go crazy from then.
I think the first domino to fall is going to have to be Kawhi.
I
Because
would think so too.
they're going to have a sit down within the next couple days and kind of decide moving forward which direction the Spurs are going to go in. Are they going to go into a full rebuild, or are they going to get Kawhi to buy in and then court LeBron? Because Popovich can get a meeting with LeBron. Regardless, yeah, it's San Antonio, and it's not nothing crazy. It's not LA. It's not New York. But it's Greg Popovich.
Right.
And I also heard a kind of a juicy rumor that Pop might be done coaching by 2020.
Wouldn't be surprised.
And if that's true, that also kind of hampers that idea that LeBron would team up with Pop. Just
Right.
kind of playing devil's advocate to myself. We touched on this before. I want to get definitives. Malik, can you definitively tell me where LeBron is going next year?
I can't definitively.
Can you give
tell
me an
you.
opinion?
It's-
The views from the sideline is built
can
on
give you an opinion.
predictions.
I can give you an
Yeah,
opinion.
give me an opinion / prediction.
I would not be surprised. The top three for me would be Houston, LA. And honestly, I don't even have a number 3. But
Okay, so who do you think he's going to, Houston or LA?
I wouldn't be surprised for the Los Angeles thing because of his family. LeBron likes being a superstar. He was in Trainwreck a few years ago. He likes being in all the Sprite commercials. He likes being around the celebrities.
The Hollywood.
LeBron loves living that life. But then there's the chance of going to the West and getting rid of the Warriors. I think that would bring him a lot of joy if he could go out to Houston.
But it also makes it 10 times tougher that you have the Rockets, the Warriors, that you have to get through just to get to the finals.
He's talking about if he's saying if LeBron goes to the Rockets, it's a better chance.
Oh,
for him
to the
come out.
Rockets.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
saying if he
okay.
goes to the Rockets.
Sorry.
The thing for me, if he goes to LA, I don't understand. He would have to know that somebody's coming along.
I'm sure Paul George would come with him.
I also wouldn't understand because the young core that they've built in LA, it looks like it's gonna pay off in 2 or 3 years because Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram both got hurt this year for extended points of time, and they still won. Well, they won 34, 35 games.
No, they won. Yeah, it was like 36. I think it was like 35, 36.
If them two if them two aren't hurt for an extended amount of time, they might have won 10 to 15 more games.
But here's the thing.
I mean,
the Lakers can keep that young core also, except for Julius Randle.
Yeah, they'd have to get rid of Julius Randle.
Julius Randle's the only key player they would have to get rid of to make room for the 2 max player slots, which could be LeBron and Paul George. Adding those two to your young core, I mean, that's got to feel like something special, I feel like, to LeBron. Yeah, it's not Houston, but also, would LeBron feel like Kevin Durant going to Houston, joining that type of team? Riding on someone else's coattails?
Yeah.
Does he want to do that? Would you think in your mind?
Oh, he's totally okay with it.
You think?
He's done it before.
I feel like
I wouldn't compare it. I don't know if I'd compare it to the Miami situation because I feel like James Harden's a better player than D Wade was at the time. Chris Paul's a better player than Chris Bosh was. I know they're 2 different types, but
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I feel like if LeBron joined Houston, that team is 2 or 3 times better than the Miami Heat team.
Because I'm pretty sure LeBron has said that later in his career he wants to start playing off ball and wants to
James
be
Harden,
more of
Chris
an
Paul.
offensive player. So if you have James Harden and Chris Paul controlling the ball, and then they just giving it to LeBron for him to score, and then he'd really be able to get into playing defense because he won't have to literally control an entire game. That would be terrifying.
Maybe.
Completely terrifying.
Maybe.
I completely think Houston and Lakers are the 2 complete favorites for LeBron.
I don't see Paul George doing much in LA also. I don't have much hype in PG-13. 24 is the guy.
I think he's kind of
that I
overrated.
believed in.
Once he had that
now
huge
he is.
injury, I think he's just not.
He's not the same.
He's not the same to me. I mean, it could be he was hiding behind Russell this past year, but to me, it just doesn't seem like that previous Paul George. Joey, where's LeBron going?
I
The
think
New Orleans Pelicans.
No. Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it. I think LA is the place. I don't know. I can't. It makes,
Joe, I need definitives here, man.
It makes
LeBron
sense.
in the purple and gold is so weird to me. It's
Yeah.
But then think
it's
about
so
how
weird.
crazy the rivalry between the Boston Celtics and the Lakers would be again. Kyrie
it would
versus
be really
LeBron.
good. It would be really good.
It
to
would be
see.
such good TV.
It would.
if they can make it to the finals.
I mean, even
Because
in
if
regular
he's-
season games,
if-
that'll be a Christmas Day game for sure.
Because if LeBron, like I said, if LeBron goes to the Lakers and he's trying to win, which we said he might not be, he might be just be doing it for family, trying to end out his career with a big prestigious team like the Lakers, but he might get ousted in the first round if he's on the Lakers.
It's possible.
That definitely would affect his legacy if
So-
if he made the decision to go to LA and then nothing really came out of it in 4 or 5 years. That would hurt his legacy if that happened.
Also, side note,
it's a
here,
big
this-
risk.
This has nothing to do with what we were talking about, but so you know how the NBA does the NBA Finals rematch on Christmas Day?
Yeah.
If LeBron leaves Cleveland, are they going to still put Golden State Warriors against Cleveland as the marquee game on Christmas Day?
Then,
I'm worried
they
about
change
that.
it.
I don't
I
know.
think they change it.
If they do that, though, that'd be so bad.
but
So terrible.
It depends on who they pick in the draft.
what do you
honestly.
guys think about like those secondary teams that people keep talking about? Like you hear the 76ers, or I've heard the Portland Trailblazers
I don't
a
believe
couple
it.
times, which
I've
doesn't make
heard
any
the Trailblazers. I've heard Michael Wilbon say he should consider DC, but that's because he's a DC dude.
Yeah.
The
Like,
teams that I've heard is New
him
York.
in Portland would be scary.
Didn't the
but-
Wizards
No.
put something on Twitter or something?
No, it was just ESPN made this thing where they did billboards for every single team.
Okay, so that was
So
an
that's
ESPN
probably
thing.
so, yeah. So
Okay.
I mean, they even made one for Detroit. It was like
Oh.
it was Detroit Muscle team up with Blake and LeBron.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it was. I'll show you after the show, but
Jeez.
yeah. I think New York is a slim chance, has an outside chance. An interesting team I heard from, of course, this is Earl Boykins, who used to play for the Denver Nuggets. But Earl Boykins is like, yeah, I think LeBron's going to give him a serious look. So, I mean, that's just something from a former player, but it'd be interesting. Jokic, LeBron,
Yeah.
they have a good core.
Right. Jamal Murray stepped up. I don't know.
But moving on, guys. It's about time. The Pistons made a move.
Pistons finally made a move, Joey.
32
It is
days
incredible.
after the firing of Stan Van Gundy.
Can you believe it?
No, I don't. I'm not sure if I
Oh
do.
my God.
Your Detroit
They have a head
Pistons.
coach, but they still don't have anything else.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to bring that up, too. They don't have a GM yet.
And draft day is in a week.
Let me tell you something.
Like, come on.
Ed Stefanski,
Literal week.
the senior advisor, Ed Stefanski, he's
Dwayne
going
Casey.
to be the
he's gonna
president.
do it.
No, Ed's making the pick. He signed that 3-year deal to be that senior advisor. He's going to do the mentoring of whatever the new GM is. Most likely Trajan Langdon, if that ever happens. But I think Ed's kind of has the de facto title of president of basketball operations.
I think so too. I think so far that's what it's looked like.
He's
been
calling
making
the
a lot of
shots.
the moves. But how do you not have a GM?
Yeah, I know.
Like I said,
looks bad.
we're
Yeah.
literally a week away from draft night, and we don't even have a general manager.
Ed's making the pick, though. I mean, it is what it is. Your senior advisor is making the pick.
That war room is going to look really small.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Four
is.
dudes clapping in a room
Well, trust
for
me,
the 42nd.
there's
pick.
no cameras in the Pistons
Oh, yeah,
war room
very
this year.
True, very true.
But yeah, Dwayne Casey, former coach of the year, former of the Toronto Raptors, agrees to a 5-year, about $36 million deal to become the head coach of the Detroit Pistons. It's kind of that same deal that Stan Van Gundy had, but Dwayne's just coaching. Grade this deal, Malik. Grade the deal.
I'm going to give it a strong A- for the head coaching position.
I agree
it
with
was,
you. Strong A-.
It was the best thing they could have done at this point. We've mentioned before how good Dwayne Casey is with developing players, how he built up the Toronto franchise. And I really don't think you can't put all of what happened to them in the playoffs over the past few years on Dwayne Casey. He did his job getting them there. His players, DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, it was just something about that combo in there. It just didn't work, but I believe in Dwayne Casey as a head coach.
Yeah, I concur exactly what you're saying. I give it a strong A-. Joey?
I was gonna say B+, A-, probably like that 90%.
The only thing that gets me is it's a lot of money. Another long-term deal. And
Yeah.
I know you had to do it to get him here. But that's why I don't give it an A+. It wasn't 5 years, $25 million, you know?
Yeah, I think it also solidifies that it's gonna be another 5 years of, are we gonna make the playoffs or not? I don't think we're gonna move up that much.
Gorse is never going to rebuild.
I think right, and that's the problem. But I think Dwayne Casey can sustain us through this period.
They can be between 6 and 8 for the next 3 or
So,
4 years, probably.
I think they could if LeBron leaves the Eastern Conference, they could push top 4.
Casey is gonna be there with Blake Griffin the whole time, so that's good. They can work around that. It'll give them an option.
Andre's under contract for
And
most of the time.
They
too.
can kind of do what they want with the team. Like I said, they'll get by. They're not going to do anything special. They're just going to get by.
They can
which-
they can challenge some teams in the first round.
For us, is
They can seriously challenge some teams in the first round.
for me, like
Possibly.
just to get back to the playoffs would be nice. Seeing the Pistons in the playoffs.
a competitive playoff series where you actually don't get swept.
I'm scared that it might not be competitive. But
With Dwayne Casey there, I see that it's going to be competitive.
I mean, he's won 50 games 4 straight
I think it's
years.
going to depend on how they use their young talent, because in this last regime with SVG, they didn't use their young talent.
They really need to like you said, they really need to capitalize on draft picks. That's what it comes down to. You don't have you have some wiggle room to make deals. Trading is your only way of improving with
Right.
how this roster is currently constructed, and draft picks in the future. So you got to hit on your draft picks, and you got to be savvy in the trade market. That's the only way this team is going to keep improving. You have steady pieces. You got Blake. You got Andre. I'd honestly look to move Reggie Jackson in the offseason just because he's always injured. I have more concern with Reggie Jackson than I do Blake Griffin, honestly.
I still stand by moving Andre. I don't think they're
Package
gonna
both.
they're not gonna
Gorse won't
do it.
do it.
That's
Gorse
what I'm
won't
saying.
do
it.
I was gonna say Gores won't probably allow it, But I really think that they should shop Andre again.
What
If
about
only
this?
we had a Danny Ainge in the front office or something.
Yeah. Only.
Willing to make risky moves.
Yes.
This is just something I thought about. Like, what if LeBron leaves? So Cleveland's going to shop Kevin Love. Kevin Love for Andre Drummond. I mean, some other pieces. Contracts currently match up, but then you have like an offensively oriented front line. Blake could play some center. Kevin could play some center. Put those two in the front court.
But then the defense.
There's no defense in the NBA
yeah.
anymore.
Andre's not that great.
I'm not going to say that.
I don't think Andre's that great of a defender.
It's an exaggeration, but yeah.
So,
But I think it'd be something to look at. If you're going to talk about being as competitive as you can, Kevin Love's a great rebounder. He also can shoot the ball very well. I just think it would be something to think about. If
I
you're
think
the
you
NBA
just
front
shop
office.
Andre and see what's out there.
I mean, they were interested in Kevin Love before they got Blake Griffin.
Because,
So
like, I keep thinking, like, Andre is at the peak of his
he's at.
worth right now, I think, as far as trade
Yeah.
value.
So you think he's going to go down next year? You think he'll have?
I don't know if he'll necessarily go down, but he might kind of just plateau at this point.
You think? You don't think there's going to be any more improvement, really?
I don't.
You don't think the jump
see
shot's
it.
coming along?
No, no. I don't even think his post moves are coming along the way they've been trying to offensively orient him. I just don't think he's
That's
that.
always been the problem.
I just don't think he's that guy. You know, I think they're trying to do too much with him, and I just don't think he's that skilled. I
that-
love the guy.
yeah.
I think he's great for Detroit,
I
but
th- yeah, that's always been the problem. I think he is skilled. The problem is he can dribble the ball. He has an okay jumper, but he's never going to use them. He's skilled in the wrong areas. You can't trade and get another 14 rebound player. You can't get. I don't know if you can get that type of athleticism, the way he gets up and down the floor. Packaging him and Reggie should be the thing to do. But
Nobody can take Reggie and Andre though. Like
true.
that.
Yeah,
that's
that's a hard
lot
combo.
of money.
That's why.
But,
It has
that's
to be
why-
separate deals.
I think Dwayne Casey, that hire is good because I don't think he's going to make Andre focal point of the offense. Like
Yeah.
Jonas Valanciunas in Toronto
He even-
was never the focal point.
Yeah.
But if you gave Jonas the ball a few times a game,
Yeah.
he could get hot
right.
and could become a big part of that offense.
And Casey even said, I think it was on the Stephen A. Smith show, after he was hired, that he is going to fully empower Blake Griffin to be as much of a star as he can be that point forward, kind of take this team and be the leader. And I think that's the best case scenario is somehow get a little bit more out of Blake that you can. Yeah, he's getting on the wrong side of 30, the wrong side of 30, but he still has that star potential.
Also,
So-
you're right. There's no defense in the NBA. I thought about it. Yeah.
Thank you. But moving on, the press conference is set for next week, Wednesday, June 20th, in Detroit. Maybe the Pistons will have a GM by then, probably not. But in interesting news, kind of relating to Dwayne Casey, the Toronto Raptors filled their coaching vacancy with Casey's lead assistant, Nick Nurse. He was kind of the offensive mind behind the Toronto Raptors. And I think this plays a huge role in the fact with the Pistons because most of the assistants are going to stay in Toronto now. So Casey's going to have to kind of recruit a whole new staff. And Casey's generally a defensive-minded coach, so he's going to have to kind of branch out and find some offensive guys. I'm not so sure he can, so I'm kind of hoping and praying that he does. But I mean, do you have any opinions on the Nick Nurse hire, either of you guys?
I was shocked they didn't hire Jerry Stackhouse.
Yeah, Jerry went
Honestly.
to Memphis now. He is one of the lead assistants in Memphis.
Huh. But if they didn't get Stackhouse, I assume they'd hire one of their assistants because I've heard they do have a strong assistant coaching staff, don't they?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do. And they actually lost I think his first name was Rex. He went to the Clippers. Doc Rivers signed him
Okay.
away. So that's another hit to Toronto.
Yeah, it was probably the best move they could have made right now because they didn't want to wait an extended period of time, kind of like the Pistons have been doing. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's a solid move.
Joe?
Nothing special, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't really have much of an opinion on it, honestly.
Wow.
I mean, he's an assistant coach. I don't know much about him.
Joey with the hot takes.
Yeah.
Always
I
can count on Joey for hot takes. when you
I
need 'em.
always I never really like when they just bring up an assistant coach. It doesn't always seem to work very well.
Very
But I mean,
true.
Toronto's going to be in a rough spot, I think, anyway, for a little bit. Now that they lost Casey and they got some thinking to do with the way they've been performing in these last couple playoffs. So, I mean, it might be okay. It might work out.
Yeah. And I kind of moving on. So the coaching carousel is finally over. All the jobs have been filled. Go through the list here. Atlanta, they fired Mike Budenholzer, hired lead assistant from Philadelphia, Lloyd Pierce. Charlotte let go of Steve Clifford. They hired James Borrego, who was a Spurs assistant. Detroit let Stan go, hired Dwayne Casey. Memphis kept J.B. Pickerstaff after they fired David Fizdale in the early part of last season. New York Knicks, they fired Jeff Hornacek, hired David Fizdale. Orlando, they fired Frank Vogel for Steve Clifford. And then the Phoenix one was really interesting. They fired Jay Triano, who was kind of the interim, but hiring a European guy, Igor Korkosov, the guy who used to coach Luka Doncic, which I'm surprised he's not getting. Maybe that's the reason why Doncic isn't getting as much look at number one, kind of that inside information. Any of those hires, big ups from you guys or big downs?
Obviously, the Knicks scored big with Fizdale, and the Pistons getting Casey was good because I had heard a lot of things that, if Casey would have sat out for a year, just done some ESPN stuff or whatever, just taking a little break next year, there could be better options for him, and he could have made more money. So,
and you're still making $6.5 million regardless,
right?
Whether
So for him to commit to the Pistons, that's a good thing, and I like that. So I think the Pistons definitely won, and like I said, Fizdale going to the Knicks.
Yeah, I think that'll be a really good move. Well, that's it for the coaching. That's it for NBA Finals. Time to get into some draft buzz. Kind of gear up for our show next week. Remember, NBA mock draft special next week. More than likely Tuesday, we'll record the show, get it on YouTube. The Sacramento Kings. They've been kind of all in the news lately, whether they want to move down, trade up, and what candidates are they looking at. A report came out that they're very serious about drafting Missouri guard Michael Porter Jr., who's had the issues with his injuries, at number 2.
Wow.
Any thoughts, Malik?
Well, before the injury, Michael Porter was considered to be the number 1 pick in this draft, but
post-injury, are you buying in?
He's such a big question mark. I watched the ESPN mock draft a week and a half ago, I think, and they had Michael Porter slid all the way down to 15 because of all the question marks that come along with him. So considering him at 2, it's a big risk, but if it pays off,
that's the thing. Especially
if it pays off, you get a 6'10" guy with 3-point range and athleticism, which is kind of like a baby Kevin Durant.
And I mean, Sacramento has had zero luck drafting or being competitive in the NBA recently. I mean, if you can't trade down and still secure Porter Jr., I'm honestly 100% down with this decision of them drafting Porter at 2.
I mean, after last year's draft, they had a really good draft last year. Bringing in Vlade Divac and I think Peja Stojakovic.
Yeah, Peja's the assistant GM now.
Bringing them into the organization really helped. They know the game. They know Sacramento. And getting De'Aaron Fox and Justin Jackson and all of them. It's working out so far. So I expect them to make a good decision.
Yeah, add Michael Porter Jr. to De'Aaron Fox, kind of that combo, maybe in your backcourt. Maybe put Porter at the 3. It could be scary.
I'm gonna go the opposite way and say that wouldn't make sense because for them to take such a big risk, and like Malik said, they did good in their draft last year. They got some good pieces, so they're kind of on the way up. This is a really deep draft. Yeah. We've said it multiple times. I don't think this is a draft that you need to take a risk in. Michael Porter Jr. obviously, yes, he has a lot of talent, but there's a lot of talent in this draft to begin with. Now, for them to take a big risk and then it blow up in their face, and then you see all these guys below him probably perform just as well, maybe. I mean, I don't know if I'd take the risk, personally.
I say take Marvin Bagley, honestly, but...
Yeah, and that's what they said, too. Bagley and Luka Doncic are the other 2 in the mix. I've also heard Mo Bamba. Bamba's been a very popular name.
Oh, he's my guy, too.
That leads me into kind of the next bit of news. Atlanta Hawks looking at Trae Young and Mo Bamba as of right now at number 3. Of course, they're probably still looking at Bagley, Jaren Jackson, and Luka Doncic, but those 2 are kind of getting the most hype, kind of shooting up the draft boards right now. If you're the Atlanta Hawks, let's say, are you going Trae Young or Mo Bamba, Joey?
I think you go with Mo Bamba
to pair next to John Collins.
Yeah.
You going Trae Young, Malik?
I think you got to make a splash in Atlanta. You got to Mo Bamba.
Do it for the culture.
Mo Bamba is a future guy. He's the draft
You think Trae Young is a now guy, though?
Oh, yeah, Trae Young is a now guy.
I don't think so.
The draft,
everybody compares him to Steph Curry. Was Steph Curry a now guy? No.
Because the NBA wasn't ready for Steph Curry.
Mo Bamba is the draft word that everybody likes. He's potential. He's the two or 3 years down the road. Him and John Collins could be. So if you bring in Trae Young right now,
The Atlanta Hawks are going to be a playoff team?
no, but
Exactly.
you're getting more people in the seats.
So you're going to be down the road anyway.
It's interesting.
So you're down the road
Nobody's going to change them right now.
You don't think
But
Mo Bamba at
Trae
7
Young-
foot with
Trae
like
Young gets people excited. A lot of people in Atlanta don't know Mo Bamba. People know Trae Young. They know how good of a shooter he is. They know how talented of a
He'll
point
sell
guard he
tickets.
is. If
He'll
you bring in
sell
Trae
tickets.
Young, people are going to start coming to games, and people will be excited for Hawks basketball again.
all right.
I agree with Malik. I think he makes some great points. Sell tickets. I mean, Atlanta's
Okay.
looking to kind of find that next star.
I like Mo Bamba, but I'm not as big on him as everybody
The
is.
NBA is a guard league. It's not a center league anymore. There's no Shaquille O'Neals.
He's the new NBA. He's a 7-footer, lanky, can shoot.
the new
has shown
NBA
that
is-
he can shoot. Giannis,
The new NBA,
Yeah.
he's not a Giannis. He is not a Giannis.
KD.
You know,
I'm just saying these
he's,
guys.
you
Well,
cannot
that
put Mo
look-
Bamba in the
The
KD.
new
discussion.
NBA
no, I'm
center.
just saying that build that he has is very similar to
Mo
how
is
this,
more built like Joel Embiid. A lot slower.
Okay.
I was
laterally.
gonna say Joel Embiid is the new NBA center. I don't think
Yeah.
Mo Bamba can get that skilled
You don't
in
think
a year or two.
I think he can.
I don't think so. I don't think
I
he can get
definitely
that
think he
skill
can.
down low.
I think Trae Young
don't
is going to
think
be
a bust.
hit or miss. I
Joel
don't know.
Embiid's skill down low is elite. I don't think Mo Bamba can do that.
I can't wait for the season to start.
I can't wait for our mock draft. We're gonna have some
I like Mo
big
Bamba.
picks next week,
I like
guys.
Although I don't honestly, I wouldn't want Mo Bamba to be drafted by the Hawks because I keep hearing, and it won't
Yeah,
happen.
that culture for him might be bad.
It won't happen, but people have put forth the idea of Porzingis and Mo Bamba together on the Knicks. That would be amazing.
There's no way he slides to 7
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
He's gonna go
No,
top
I know.
five.
That's
or
what I'm
9
saying.
or whatever.
That's
it
what I'm
is,
saying.
9.
I think it's like 8 or whatever, but there's no way that happens. But that would be amazing.
Well, that's the show, guys. I mean, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Remember, next week, the first annual Views from the Sideline NBA mock draft special. We're going through the entire first round, pick by pick. We'll kind of do maybe Joey gets the first pick. We'll go Malik 2, me 3, and kind of keep going back and
Can I
forth.
trade down?
There's no trading. There's no trading in this.
No trades.
Unless there's
Just
trading,
picks, all
unless
right.
there's picks traded.
Does somebody else
before.
want the first pick?
I mean, we'll talk about it. I
Okay.
mean, we'll discuss who's gonna actually go first. But unless there's trades of actual draft picks, that's the only way we'll kind of move the draft order.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it, guys. I mean, some good stuff on the show today. I guess we'll have to see everybody next time. Remember, next week, Views from the Sideline NBA mock draft special. We'll see ya.
Bye.
Ben Simmons, please leave